Herbert Chapman, manager of the Arsenal team, was one Englishman who did follow developments on the continent. Along with his friends Meisel and Pozzo, Chapman was the third of the great Napoleons of interwar football in Europe. He joined Arsenal in 1925, a club that had yet to win a trophy.
Football between 1920 and 1930, by and large, was dominated by teams from the north, and specifically by Huddersfield Town. And then Herbert Chapman, who had already guided Huddersfield Town to 3 consecutive league championships, moved to Arsenal. And within 5 years, Chapman had taken Arsenal to the 1930 FA Cup final, and then the following year, they became the first London team to win a league championship.
In the 1930 FA Cup final, Chapman's 2 clubs came head-to-head as Arsenal played Huddersfield. Like Pozzo and Meisel, Chapman was an innovator. It was he who first pulled a third man into defence, and before the 1930 final even tried to sign a foreigner. But the transfer of Rudy Hayden, the goalkeeper of the Wonder team, was blocked by the Ministry of Labour, one of the many hurdles Chapman faced in his career. Famous for the appearance of the Graf Zeppelin, the 1930 final saw Arsenal win the first of 7 trophies. In a decade, they completely dominated.
Here's Mr. Herbert Chapman, the famous manager, with his lads at Highbury. And now I'm going to ask him to introduce them to you. Mr. Chapman?
I must apologize this morning. I'm so husky, I can scarcely speak.
La-di-da-di-da, la-di-da-di-da, all good fellows and jolly good company. Oh!
In January 1934, Chapman died, age 58.
It's not inconceivable to think of Herbert Chapman as, if he'd lived even another 5 or 6 years, possibly moving on from Arsenal to becoming an England manager. Chapman would have had England in the World Cups the next night. You know, he understood football as an international game. He understood what we understand as modern football. Obviously, Arsenal lost a lot when Chapman died, but arguably English football lost a lot as well, particularly the England national team.
In an increasingly professional game, the strict adherence to the amateur ethic meant isolation had also been the name of the game for Germany, the biggest nation in Europe, though in 1936, Berlin hosted the Olympic Games.
Deutschland hat 2 große Aufgaben zu erfüllen. 1936 aufzutreten als gütiger Gastgeber für alle Nationen, die zu den Olympischen Spielen kommen, und ebenso als Teilnehmer. Sie sehen also, dass sportlich, technisch, organisatorisch vor uns eine herrliche, große nationale Aufgabe ersteht.
Hijacked by the Nazis for their propaganda, the 1936 Olympics are remembered as one of the most political ever. The Games left an indelible impression on those taking part.
Ma l'atmosfera fredda, però non c'è mai stato nessuno che avesse gridato qualcosa contro o che avesse fatto piantato delle grane, no? Era un esercito, era tutto esercito. C'era Hitler, c'era sempre, lei salutava così, noi salutavamo così, lui salutava così. Comunque, certo però che i tedeschi sono gente dura, Madonna.
The World Cup was now the premier football tournament, but the final between Italy and an Austrian team coached by Jimmy Hogan still attracted huge interest. Italy's win, playing a strong physical game, was celebrated as much as their World Cup triumph.
Ma è una strategia molto semplice, non tenere tanto la palla nei piedi, non dribblare perché si rallenta il gioco, mentre invece con dei passaggi lunghi in profondità, sempre verso la porta avversaria, potevano essere dei passaggi che con un attaccante veloce potevano essere sfruttati fino in porta.
Politics and nationalist sentiments ensured that club football maintained a high profile in Central Europe during the 1930s. Prague, by then one of Europe's most fashionable capitals, remained a favoured destination as clubs competed for the best players on the continent. In 1938, thanks to the signing of Pepe Bitzan from Rapid Vienna, Slavia Prague won the Mitropa Cup.
No a pak vydali obrovský plet, dvakrát tolik nebo třikrát skoro tolik, jak ve Vídni jsem měl. I když ve Vídni jsem měl velký plet poměrně, no ale tady ta česká koruna, víte, jo, ta byla přeci hodnotná, úžasná.
The last chapter in the evolving story of football during the interwar years was written in France, at the finals of the 1938 World Cup. Absent again were England and Uruguay, along with the Austrians, whose players now represented Germany after the Anschluss of earlier in the year. With the death of Chapman in 1934 and Meisel in 1937, Pozzo was the undisputed master of European football. He could virtually do as he pleased.
In più voleva sapere i fatti loro. Se io mando in campo uno che sta litigando con la moglie, io lo voglio sapere, perché se quello non è a posto di testa io non lo faccio giocare. Chi ha dei problemi di famiglia me lo dica, io voglio leggere la vostra posta. Come in guerra, no? Quando c'era censura, io voglio leggere la vostra posta. Sì, accettavano l'idea. Con questa tecnica, curatore d'anime lo chiamavano, no? I giocatori. Con questa tecnica è arrivato ad avere una squadra assolutamente compatta, rendere tutti amici uno degli altri.
Infatti c'è stato qualche giocatore che non ha giocato in nazionale perché c'era posto, perché aveva fatto qualche cosa che non andava, o era venuto a conoscenza lui di qualche cosa che non aveva, o magari si era alzato di notte perché aveva adocchiato qualche signora o signorina nell'albergo. Noi eravamo dei prigionieri dei tempi.
Italy reached the final where they faced Hungary. Having beaten the Czechs in the 1934 final and the Austrians in the 1936 Olympic final, here was a chance to vanquish the Danubian school, though they had to face a hostile reception from emigre Italians who had fled Mussolini's regime.
Eppure abbiamo visto anche delle scene che ci hanno commosso, perché abbiamo visto di questi italiani che davano un principio, perché si vede che erano stati organizzati dal Partito Comunista francese per poter far saltare fuori qualche grana, rovinare qualche partita in modo che noi fossimo danneggiati là. Ecco.
This was a much more polished Italian team than in 1934. And for their second goal, Italy gave the Hungarians a dose of their own medicine. Miazza passing when it was easier to score before Piola finished it off. 3 major finals in the 1930s. 3 opponents from the Danubian school, and the Italians had beaten them all.
Gli italiani, qualcuno, come ho visto io, che dopo piangeva perché abbiamo vinto il campionato del mondo, ma prima ci dicevano di tutti i colori, ce ne dicevano quando eravamo per la strada che andavamo a fare delle passeggiate così tanto.
Miazza received the cup for Italy. Pozzo had achieved something no coach had managed to do before or has done since: lead a team to 2 World Cup victories.